15 Reasons I Am Not Orthodox. Welcome to Precision Apologetics.
In the booth, yeah, I'm laying it down. Grace pours out when the truth comes around. 1 John 1:9, yeah, he wipes it away. Confession to the priest, hear the mercy replay. Step in the booth, yeah, I'm laying it down. Grace pours out when the truth comes around. 1 John 1:9, yeah, he wipes it away. Confession to the priest, hear the mercy replay.
Number 1, Orthodoxy permits divorce and remarriage. Christ said clearly in Matthew 19:6, "What God has joined together, let no man separate." Yet the Orthodox Church allows up to 3 marriages. The early church fathers stood firm. St. John Chrysostom wrote that even if a spouse sins, the marriage bond remains unbroken. The Catholic Church holds to what Christ taught: marriage is a sacrament, not a contract. To break it and remarry is to live in contradiction to his words. When the Orthodox began tolerating second and third marriages, they opened the door to human weakness instead of defending God's unchanging truth. The Catholic Church refuses to do that because real mercy doesn't lie. It heals, it forgives, but it never calls sin okay. That's why the Church stands as the guardian of the covenant, for better or worse until death. Number 2, Orthodox have no keys to the kingdom of heaven, Matthew 16:18-19. In Matthew 16:18-19, Jesus said to Peter, "You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven." The Orthodox reject the Pope's authority, yet still read this passage. Keys mean authority, not shared equally by all, but given to one steward. Just as in Isaiah 22:22, the key was given to one man under the king. Christ made Peter that chief steward of his kingdom, the first pope. Without those keys, there is no center of unity, no final authority to bind and loose. That's why confusion spreads when the papacy is denied. The early councils and fathers like St. Optatus and St. Cyprian recognized the chair of Peter as the source of unity. When Christ handed Peter the keys, he handed the church her anchor. Number 3, disobedient to Christ through the Pope. Jesus said in Luke 10:16, He who hears you hears me." The Pope, as successor of Peter, is not just a bishop among many. He is the visible sign of Christ's authority on earth. The Orthodox broke communion with that authority. That means they stopped listening to the one Christ appointed to feed my sheep, John 21:17. For centuries, saints like St. Irenaeus in the 2nd century wrote that all churches must agree with the Church of Rome because of its preeminent authority. To reject the Pope is not to reject a man, it is to reject Christ's structure. Unity with Peter isn't optional, it's obedience to the shepherd's voice. That's why the Catholic Church alone remains whole, one fold under one shepherd, John 10:16. Number 4, the Orthodox Church ordained women as deacons. In 2024, the Orthodox Patriarchate of Alexandria ordained several women as deacons in Africa, the first time in centuries. The Catholic Church, however, remains faithful to what Christ himself established. Jesus chose only men as apostles, not because women are lesser, but because a priest stands in persona Christi, in the person of Christ. The Council of Laodicea, 4th century, forbade female ordination. And St. John Paul II reaffirmed the Church has no authority to confer priestly ordination on women. Ordinatio Sacerdotalis 1994. By permitting female ordination, some Orthodox leaders step outside sacred tradition. Truth doesn't evolve with culture. It's guarded by the Holy Spirit. The Catholic Church honors women profoundly, from Mary to every saint, but never redefines what Christ instituted. Obedience to his design is the highest form of love. Number 5, no Eucharistic miracles. Across history, the Catholic Church has countless Eucharistic miracles, from Lanciano in the 8th century to Buenos Aires in 1996. all scientifically verified as real human heart tissue. In Orthodoxy, none are recorded with the same divine confirmation. Why? Because Christ promised his presence to the church built on Peter. The Eucharist is the body of Christ, but miracles affirm where the full truth dwells. John 6:55 says, "My flesh is real food." When doubt rises, God confirms his church with wonders. Even science bows before the mystery that Christ gave to his bride, the Catholic Church. These miracles aren't to boast, they are invitations. God still whispers, "This is my body," and proves it for those who seek truth. Number 6, all bishops are equal? Then they elect a patriarch. The Orthodox claim that all bishops are equal, yet they elect patriarchs to rule over them. If every bishop truly held the same authority, who decides when they disagree? Christ gave his church a clear model: Peter among the apostles. Equality in dignity does not mean equality in jurisdiction. Even the early councils ordered the great sees according to ancient custom, with Rome recognized as the elder and first see. A precedent acknowledged long before later patriarchates arose, Canon 6, Council of Nicaea. That very canon shows that equal episcopal dignity never meant equal authority. Without a head, unity collapses into rivalry. Christ settled this forever when he said to Peter, "Feed my sheep," John 21:17. True equality exists only in obedience to the head Christ appointed. Number 7, Moscow and Constantinople in schism. Today, the Russian and Greek Orthodox churches are in open schism, refusing to share communion. Yet they recite the Nicene Creed, which says, "I believe in one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church." If both claim to be the church, which one is it? Christ prayed in John 17:21 that they may be one. Division is not holiness, it's the opposite of Christ's will. The Catholic Church has faced storms, but remains one body under one head. Without Peter, the East fractured into competing patriarchates. The unity Christ prayed for still stands, and it stands with Rome. That's not arrogance, it's continuity. Number 8, Council of Florence. Union, then rejection. In 1439, at the Council of Florence, the Byzantine Emperor John VIII Palaiologos and nearly all Eastern bishops, except Mark of Ephesus, signed the decree of union, Latener Caeli. The Patriarch of Constantinople, Joseph II, supported reunion, but died shortly before the signing. His successor, Metrophanes II, later ratified the union officially in Constantinople. For a moment, East and West were one again. But back home, political pressure and fear of public backlash led many to retract their word. The Catholic Church kept the promise. The East reversed it. Christ's prayer for unity was offered and refused. Yet that same invitation remains open, calling all Christians to come to the unity of Christ founded on Peter. Number 9, the apostles remained in communion with Peter. Every apostle had authority, but only one was given the keys. Even Paul went to Peter to confirm the gospel he preached, Galatians 1:18. From Jerusalem to Rome, the early church stayed united under Peter's witness. St. Ignatius of Antioch in 107 AD wrote, "Wherever Jesus Christ is, there is the Catholic Church." And he spoke of Rome as presiding in love. When the East broke away, it cut itself off from the same communion the apostles preserved. Peter and his faith are the rock, and those who remain on that rock remain with the fullness of Christ's church. That's why the Catholic Church alone can trace her communion directly back to Peter's chair, unbroken, alive, and universal. Number 10, Peter is the rock in Matthew 16:18. Christ didn't say, "On your confession, I'll build my church." He said, "You are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church." The Aramaic makes it clear. Kepha means rock, John 1:42. The early fathers agreed. St. Augustine, St. Leo the Great, and St. Cyprian all taught Peter himself was the rock on which Christ built his church. To separate from Peter is to separate from that rock. That's why the Orthodox, though preserving beauty and liturgy, lack the unity of faith that flows from the See of Rome. Christ didn't build his church on ideas. He built it on a man he renamed Rock, and that rock still stands in Rome, calling his children home. Number 11, allowing contraception. For 19 centuries, every Christian condemned contraception as sin. Even Martin Luther called it a crime against nature. Yet the Orthodox now allow it in some cases. The Catholic Church, however, stands firm. Humana Vitae teaches that love and life are inseparable. When we separate pleasure from purpose, we make ourselves the author of life instead of God. Contraception leads to mistrust, infidelity, and divorce. True love always gives, it never withholds. That's why the Church defends openness to life. Psalm 127:3 says, "Children are a heritage from the Lord." The Catholic Church still believes it. Number 12, denying purgatory. The Orthodox reject purgatory, yet they pray for the dead. If souls don't need purification, why pray for them? 2 Maccabees 12:46 says, "It is a holy and wholesome thought to pray for the dead." The early fathers like St. Gregory of Nyssa and St. Augustine taught that post-death purification. Purgatory isn't punishment, it's mercy. It's the final cleansing of love, where God wipes away every stain before we enter heaven. To deny it is to deny God's refining fire, 1 Corinthians 3:15. The Catholic Church teaches this is not to scare, but to give hope. That even after death, God still works to make us holy. Number 13, no doctrinal clarity. Ask 10 Orthodox priests a doctrinal question, and you may get 10 different answers. There's no universal magisterium, no catechism to guard the deposit of faith. The Catholic Church, through the Pope and councils, preserves doctrinal unity. The Council of Chalcedon 451 called Rome the mother and head of all the churches. Without a final authority, faith becomes opinion. Truth, however, doesn't change with geography. Christ gave his church the spirit of truth, John 16:13, and that spirit guards Catholic doctrine so the faithful never wander in confusion. Where there's unity in teaching, there's peace of mind. Number 14, no universal mission. The Catholic Church is in every nation, proclaiming the gospel to the ends of the earth, just as Christ commanded, Matthew 28:19. Orthodoxy, by contrast, often remains tied to ethnicity, Greek, Russian, Serbian. But the gospel isn't ethnic, it's universal. St. Paul became all things to all men. The Catholic Church sends missionaries to jungles, deserts, and cities alike, because souls are one family under one Father. The name Catholic means universal. That's the heart of our mission, to bring the light of Christ to every soul, not just our own people. The church that evangelizes the world is a church Christ founded. Number 15, earthly patriarchs versus heavenly authority. In the East, patriarchs often serve under national governments, influenced by politics, kings, or presidents. But the Pope stands apart. He rules no nation's agenda, only Christ's. As sovereign of the Vatican, the Pope is free to speak the truth even when nations resist it. That's why St. Athanasius, St. Maximus the Confessor, and countless saints looked to Rome when persecution arose. The Pope answers not to Caesar, but to Christ. When politics enslaved the East, divine freedom remained in Rome. The Catholic Church still proclaims what no empire can silence, that Jesus Christ is Lord, and his vicar stands for truth until the end of time, Matthew 28:20. Thank you for watching Precision Apologetics.
In the booth, yeah, I'm laying it down. Grace pours out when the truth comes around. 1 John 1:9, yeah, he wipes it away. Confession to the priest, hear the mercy replay. Stepped in the booth, yeah, I'm laying it down. Grace pours out when the truth comes around. 1 John 1:9, yeah, he wipes it away. Confession to the priest, hear the mercy replay. We're sitting in the pew, heart heavy with sin. Matthew 16:19, where the keys begin. Christ gave authority to bind and release. Through his chosen apostles, forgiveness and peace. John 20:23, whose sins you forgive, passed down through the church so the soul can live. It's not a man's power, it's a spirit divine, flowing through the priesthood, it's a sacred line. Yeah, James 5:16, confess to one another, healing through the church. We're all sisters and brothers. Grace through the sacraments of mercy's legit. Christ paid the price, but I gotta